Hello, everyone. This is Ronnie. On this channel, I talk about raw food, the raw food journey and lifestyle. Subscribe to this if you want more information and advice on that. I also run the UK Fruit Fest, fruitfest.co.uk. It's a festival for people interested in the raw vegan diet and lifestyle. Fruitfest.co.uk if you want more information. There's not many tickets left this year. Anyway, thank you. Thank you. Um, I want to talk in this video about Steve Jobs and why did Steve Jobs die? Steve Jobs, as far as I know, died of pancreatic cancer, and it's about as simple as that. Steve Jobs died of pancreatic cancer. However, Steve Jobs potentially would still be alive if he received treatment for that pancreatic cancer, which he apparently avoided for a couple of years, or the first year at least, of having been diagnosed with the cancer. And by the time that he went to get the treatment, it was basically too late for the treatment. And Steve Jobs was, regardless of what people think about him, and I think there's a lot of negative things people say about him, he was a very successful, very innovative, um, very inspiring entrepreneurial person. Achieved some incredible success and feats in the world, and obviously was a big part, or the biggest part, of building Apple, the company, which is one of the biggest companies in the world still to this day. And, could still be doing probably great things to this day. Whatever you think about him, there's not a lot of people like that who can do things like that. And those people are important for the world. So, um, yeah, anyway. But the ultimate question that many people would say is, well, why did he get cancer? Why did he get cancer? Especially as he was famously a vegan. I believe he was a vegan. And he also went through a period of his life where he was a fruitarian. And the company Apple supposedly comes from a time when he was just eating apples, which was something that he experimented with at times. I don't know how often, but I think in the 70s at least, and in the films, in one of the films, it suggests that he did do that for a time. Now, that's the kind of interesting thing about Steve Jobs as a person, is that he was an experimenter. He tried different things out. He was open to different things. And with Apple, with the technology industry, you've got all these people who are software, tech, engineering, coding, you know, all this kind of analytical sort of thinking, I suppose, or computer thinking. And Steve Jobs had done things like calligraphy and, different, had a totally different perspective of things. He'd did meditation, I think, and went out to, Indian places and all that stuff. I can't think of the right words. Um, Ashrams or whatever. He was a vegan, he was a different thinker, a forward thinker. And that's why, for example, a lot of the Apple stuff was more focused on style, and that was a big part of the success of it, in a sense, and still to this day, I suppose. So, um, but he was a vegan. So why would a vegan get cancer? So I reckon you'll find generally, if you look at cancers, and even pancreatic cancer, although I don't know exactly, I think you will find that generally vegans get less cancer. Maybe that's a controversial statement to make. I don't think it necessarily is. I do think vegans probably get less cancer. I think that it's quite, there's quite a lot of evidence that the more fruit you eat, the less chance you have of getting cancer. So if you go and research this and you look through almost every cancer and try and find that cancer in fruit, you'll find studies about people eating more fruit get less incidence of that cancer, or less likely to get that cancer. generally plant-based diets are healthier and so on. So why did this guy get pancreatic cancer? Well, I don't think we really know exactly um, what the guy ate, how he ate, what his habits were. But regardless of any of that, I think that we have a wrong idea if we think that cancer is something that you can be completely invulnerable to, if that's the right word, or like that you can completely protect yourself from it. From what I know, from what I've heard, from what I've looked into, animals in the wild get cancer. Animals eating their normal and natural diet, domestic animals eating farm animals, eating their normal diet, or eating their best diet, can still get cancer, as far as I'm aware. Feel free to tell me I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that that's the case. The cancer is pretty common throughout the animal world. And I think that we have a mistake on this. Now, I definitely think we've certainly proved that there are things that are carcinogenic. If you get exposed to certain things, if you expose yourself to certain things, it's carcinogenic. It means it increases the chance of cancer happening. And I think the diet is unquestionably a part of that. You increase your chance of cancer. Obviously, smoking increases your chance of lung cancer and maybe some other throat cancers, mouth cancer. Alcohol will increase your cancer of certain cancer, but diet unquestionably does. And red meat and processed meat are in the category of carcinogens. T. Colin Campbell, the author of the China study, said that for them, casein, which is, I believe, a protein that's in milk, in cow's milk, was the most carcinogenic nutrient that they'd ever found, and that they were able to use to increase the amount of casein in the diet of a particular animal and see tumor growth turn on and off in some cases. So there's a lot of evidence of certain foods being related to cancer, and I believe that that's mainly animal products. And obviously, bowel cancer with red meats are very, or meat is a pretty close and clear one. Bad diet in general, which I think is a diet that's high in fat, high in animal products. You know, I don't really think processed foods anymore. People say processed foods, but I don't think the processed foods are necessarily, some of those things are as bad as eating natural foods that are bad for you, like animal products. So I think it's unquestionable the evidence that a vegan diet, a raw vegan diet, is more protective against cancer. It doesn't stop people getting cancer, I don't believe. I don't think it will. I don't think it'll stop your chance 100% of getting cancer. That's not what I think. What I know, pretty much I'm fairly sure on this, is if someone is diagnosed with cancer and has cancer, that a raw vegan diet or even fasting does not get rid of that cancer or does not predictably get rid of that cancer. It's not as sure as maybe someone having heart disease, diabetes, reducing your risk of stroke, bringing down high blood pressure. All of those kind of things are pretty predictable uniformly. You can bring down digestive problems. Can take longer sometimes, but generally people will see relief from digestive problems going from, you know, acid reflux in the throat to stomach issues to intestinal issues and bowel issues and so on. People will see benefits in all these areas with a raw vegan diet because diet is really the problem. However, people will maybe have done damage and stuff, and it takes time to heal. It takes time for the body to recover fully to normal. Autoimmune conditions are another situation in which it can be the case that the raw vegan diet or a vegan diet can help because sometimes the autoimmunity is being triggered by proteins, particularly animal proteins, that are leaking into the blood from the animal foods that people eat, from the milk in particular, one being a major problem, from the milk, but from the meat from animal products. Those proteins, it shouldn't really be getting into our body, into our system. should be getting broken down, but it can happen that they find their way into the bloodstream. The body creates antibodies to destroy these things, and antibodies are pretty indiscriminate, and they'll destroy any proteins that are linked to that particular shape, that particular structure. And that can also mean that parts of the body get attacked by those antibodies. And that's autoimmune disease. Sorry, that's a very simplistic idea about autoimmune disease. I'm not the world's expert on it, but that's the way that I understand it. So in a number of those class of diseases, and then I would say inflammatory things as well. And so I think arthritis and certain types of arthritis are either inflammatory or they are autoimmune caused. And basically, one or the other. And in both of those situations, the raw vegan diet can help to sometimes completely reverse these problems. And autoimmune diseases range from things like multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, those are the two that come to mind straight away. Type 1 diabetes is potentially an autoimmune, well, probably an autoimmune disease. There is some research showing a link between milk proteins, cow's milk proteins, and type 1 diabetes. I don't think that's been fully confirmed, but that's one speculation. Apparently, there are fully vegan children that have become type 1 diabetics, so we can't say it's always or just cow's milk, but that's potentially one of the causes. So we have all these situations, all these different diseases, and there's obviously many more different diseases than that. Cancer obviously is very complicated, and I'm not going to project myself as an expert on cancer. There are many different types of cancer being triggered by different things, and it's a major killer of people. It kills a huge amount of people. It used to be the case that heart disease maybe killed more people than cancer. Now people live a little longer and the cancer kills them rather than the heart disease. They often have both. But cancer is fairly common. I think 1 in 3 maybe people now get some form of cancer. A lot of men get prostate cancer. A lot of women get breast cancer. And these things are, very common. I think that a lot of these cancers, if we were brought up in a raw vegan diet, would be tremendously rare. I think the certain ones would disappear virtually with just diet change. Would just disappear. But that doesn't mean that the person gets the cancer and goes raw vegan and it goes away. That's not what's that's to me that's kind of rare. And unfortunately, a lot of people want to believe that. Some people are teaching that. And it's really bad advice in the raw vegan world if people are telling others what you need to do if you get cancer is to do a juice fast or something. It's really bad, really bad, really bad advice. Really terrible advice. And I'm sorry, if you're maybe have cancer, someone that's got cancer, you're desperately looking for an answer. You don't want to listen to this. You don't want to hear this. Listen, if I knew any different, why would I say this? Why would I say this? Why wouldn't I want this to be the answer to cancer? Why wouldn't I? Of course you would want that to be the case. But it's not a very common thing for someone to reverse cancer really on with almost any kind of treatment. So I'm sorry for that. I don't want to not give people hope or whatever, but I do think being honest in this, and I want you to be aware of the fact, if you have come across this video because you're in that situation or know someone that is, there are places out there that will happily tell you that will happily take you in. And, They probably won't tell you that that you will recover from cancer. They probably won't say that, but they'll happily take your money and have you come in, and you know you can spend the last few months of your life in some place, or the last month in your life, someplace away from your family, away from home, doing a juice diet or whatever. And unfortunately, you're not going to get any better. It's not going to work. But generally, it probably won't work, and it's quite sad. Uh, I think the Gerson Clinic in Mexico. There's some fasting places that might take you in. Hippocrates in Florida. You know, these places probably quite happy to take people in. Um, and I think that's kind of immoral, really, and wrong. But they, they operate like that. So anyway, uh, so I would never. Unfortunately, I can't give you the confidence that you go raw vegan, you're going to get rid of your cancer. It could happen. I think it's unlikely to. Unfortunately, like I've got to that stage where I think it's very, especially if you're talking about you're at quite late stages of cancer, and you've been like unhealthy all your life, and now you want to change. Well, the first thing is, I'm not even convinced you're going to be able to change your diet now. You might think, a lot of you might think, well, I would change my diet if I had cancer. I would change my diet if I was overweight. I would change my diet if I got a disease. You say that and you think that. If you can't change your diet when you're healthy, when you have all the time, energy, you know, and all that stuff to go towards it, you're not going to do it when you get diagnosed with cancer or something like that. It's just tough. It's just really tough, and you're now in a worse position, and that's part of the thing as well. Is that one of the reasons I wouldn't suggest this to people is that the chances of them doing it, and the problem with people is they'll do 95% or 90% and think that's enough. Isn't that enough? Like, well, not if you then still eat the other stuff that causes the cancer the rest of the time. Then no, it has to be 100%. And very few people are going to do that, unfortunately. So the best advice for a lot of people is, if they come to you, if you're a raw vegan, they come to you and say, been diagnosed with terminal cancer, can I do this raw vegan thing? You're probably best off saying to them, you should firstly, get your affairs in order. Be realistic about this. Have you got a will in place? Have you spoken to your family? Have you prepared? If you've got a house, if you've got things, like prepare how these things, what will happen. Figure that out. Let's be realistic about it, and do the things that won't put people in a bad position after you pass away. Clear that all up. It shouldn't take you too long to do that. And yeah, I mean, why not try the diet, see if it makes a difference? Unfortunately, it might be way too late. Way too late. And with Steve Jobs, don't know the whole story, but he was diagnosed with cancer, and the story goes that he was offered the conventional pancreatic cancer treatments. So they must have caught it relatively early. And pancreatic cancer, as far as I know, what I've heard, is a very deadly cancer, a very terminal cancer. So it was caught early. He decided not to do the surgery. Now that's his right. That's every person's right to do that. But I imagine it's quite frustrating for doctors, surgeons, and whatever to have the experience of having had, let's say, 1,000 patients that have that same situation, and if you get them to do the thing early, 80% of them live or whatever, or something of that nature. So they see how it clearly works very well. Now, no one wants to do surgery. No one wants to have parts of the body removed, cut out. You can die in surgery. So it's a risk. But Steve Jobs chose not to. And part of that was potentially because of his background in raw foodism, in veganism, in alternative health. You can see that he probably had an interest in that throughout his life. And that might have actually helped him throughout his life in a number of different ways. But somewhere along the line, he might have picked up this idea to heal yourself naturally, to heal cancer naturally, to use holistic alternative treatments, to use diet. And probably that might have helped him a number of times in his life when he had other health issues. I'm going to go raw for a while. That might have helped him. And it probably helps for other things. But for this pancreatic cancer, now some people would say, oh, well, that Steve Jobs got cancer because he worked in the computer industry and there was a lot of chemicals he was exposed to. That could be the case. But it could be the case that he got it just because he's a human being. He's an animal. He's a set of trillions of cells replicating and all that all the time. And some of them go wrong some of the time. And that's basically what cancer is. Well, it's a very simplistic idea of what cancer is, but so he avoided the treatment. Now, I want you to think about this. If you're ever putting a message out there, and you might say, Ronnie, why are you saying this kind of thing? You don't need to focus on that. You don't need to think about that. Why don't you give people hope and say, yeah, do a raw vegan diet. Do fasting. It could work, Because someone somewhere down the line said something to Steve Jobs or wrote something in a book or put a message out there that made him think, if I get cancer, I'm going to try and treat it naturally. So that was his viewpoint and thought that came from something that he read or talked to, someone told him, or some experience or something. And whatever that was led to him making this decision not to go for the conventional treatment and led to his early death. So he could still be alive today making good contributions in the world. As vegans, how much better would it be if Steve Jobs was still alive as one of the richest men in the world being a vegan? One of the most powerful powerful technology leaders in the world being a vegan. How much better would that be? Helping to get the vegan message out there, perhaps. But we don't have that voice anymore. Why? And actually it damaged the vegan movement. When there's guys in their 80s, 90s have a terrible diet. Almost celebrating their terrible diet. Talking about being in good health. They've had operation after operation after operation after medication, keeping them alive. But they're alive, and yeah, they should change their diet. Yeah, their diet's not good, but they're surviving. They're not really thriving health-wise, but they're keeping alive, and those guys are alive. They, in a sense, were right. They in a sad way, some of those guys are right. So, because you can't say you're healthier if you're dead. You're not. You didn't live. And that's the ultimate thing about this lifestyle. Is like you get everything right, and then you die in your 50s of cancer because you didn't take the treatment that was there. So hygiene, the idea of hygiene, of living a healthy life, is not avoiding medicine. That's not what it's about. Hygiene is not avoiding medicine, avoiding pharmaceuticals, avoiding drugs. That's not what hygiene is. Hygiene is as far as I can see, is finding the most intelligent choice to make for building health, for maintaining, building, improving health. And that is not always just change your diet, just change your whatever, you know. Now, my usual message is that diet is the main thing, by far the main thing. But in some of these situations, especially with something like cancer, I think you'll see an improvement with diet. I think you'll see an improvement, but I don't think you'll see often cancer going into remission. But there are some people that have stories of that happening. What becomes confused with cancer is that people's stories are often, I had cancer, I cured the cancer, went raw vegan, and I've never had the cancer not come back. What they miss out, and their bio says, and everything says, I cured cancer. Their website might be, there's a guy that's like, Chris beat cancer, quite famous guy. Chris beat cancer. There's a bunch of people who will talk about, there's people that get interviewed in certain channels. They beat cancer. It amazes me that these people think that they cured cancer with their diet when they clearly got medical treatment. And yet they want to tell everyone it was the diet. This really confuses me. Chris beat cancer, got colon cancer or something as a young man, and had the cancer removed. And then decided not to do the chemotherapy, and he went raw vegan mostly. And the cancer didn't come back so far, which is great. But his whole story is playing up the diet, downplaying the operation. Like, the cancer was removed. He should really be saying, I beat cancer because I did the operation and did the diet to stop it coming back. And there's a bunch of people that are not clearly saying that, and it annoys me that they try and say, yeah, but if I just changed the diet, I would have dealt with it. No, not true. You cannot say that. There's a lady on Robert Morse's channel, and it was like, because someone was telling me, oh, but Robert Morse has got lots of testimonials of people beating cancer. I was like, really? Let's go and have a look. Went to his channel. I found one lady talking about breast cancer. Now, she'd had both breasts removed, but it was the diet. I mean, come on. Don't want to offend anyone, but you can't say to other people, actually, what you should do is change your diet. Don't do what I did. Like, that lady is still alive. Yes, she's now disfigured, whatever you want to say, but she's alive. And other people die pretty young from breast cancer because they don't do something about it. And hopefully, if you catch it early enough, you don't have to remove everything. You're just getting the cancer removed. So you got to see the power of even the random little YouTube channel, speaking to a few people, speaking to a small audience at a festival, writing a book that a few hundred people buy or whatever. It has an impact. You might touch that Steve Jobs or that one person that ends up making a decision because of the sort of things that you said, and they end up in a bad situation and potentially dying. That's how serious this information is. So I don't take it lightly, that people want to throw around false ideas like that, because it's very dangerous and damaging for people. So Steve Jobs is a human being, as every human being is, even if he was as healthy as he possibly could be, which he probably wasn't. He developed pancreatic cancer. He decided not to get the treatment. He postponed getting treatment that was probably quite reliable, well-known treatment. He tried to do natural alternatives like, I think, juicing diet, raw food diet, things like that. Alternative things. It didn't work. He probably had a myriad of alternative practitioners giving him ideas. It didn't work. And once he went back to the medical situation, he passed away. They weren't able to treat him anymore. Now, the thing is, there's so many situations in which the opposite would have worked. So many situations, if he'd done the same thing, he would have ended up in a better position. If he'd had prostate cancer, he probably would have been fine. He probably would have had a better position than to have had his prostate removed and all that stuff. He would have probably been better off to do that. There's certain things where he would have been better off, even maybe certain cancers. But with that situation, it was not the best decision. So that's a little bit of a rant on cancer. And here's the thing about a few things. Not everything is specific diet related. Not all diseases, but a huge amount of health issues are diet related. But there's a couple of things, and this is one of the reasons that cancer. See, people think, well, if I get the raw food diet into me and all the nutrients, my body's going to be such a maximum peak of immunity, or if I do fasting, that it can really, really heal and clean out and get this cancer out. The problem is this: your immune system does not see the cancer as something to attack. And that is part of the problem of cancer. This is something that people don't seem to understand and don't seem to be saying. Something that was explained to me by my brother's wife, who's a doctor. Sorry, someone just came to my door there. Yeah, so you've got this cancer that's grown, which is essentially a cell. So yeah, my brother's wife was saying the cells are replicating, changing, and some of them mutate. And generally, if a cell goes bad, the body will recognize that and will deal with it, will destroy the cell or take it away. What happens with cancer is not only is the cell mutated or it's a genetic malfunction so that it is replicating, but at the exact same time, there's something about it that means the body is not recognizing it. The immune system is not recognizing it as a threat, as a problem. So that's the one of the concepts or theories on cancer is we've got this situation where the cell's gone cancerous, where it's starting to replicate, kind of out of control. But at the same time, it's not signaling for some reason, or the body is not picking up. The immune system has not seen it to be a problem. If you can understand that. So your immune system, no matter how strong it is, if it doesn't register this cell as being a problem, as being a destructive force, it just leaves it. And that's the problem with cancer. Even people on a bad diet, if their body, if your body realize, your immune system realize that's cancer, that's going to destroy the body, that's dangerous. If your immune system is going to destroy that in no time. The body isn't recognizing it as a cancer, as a disease. So going down this path of the best diet possible, the healthiest immune system, fasting, you think that's going to help, and the immune system, your body's nice and healthy and everything else is looking great and you're feeling good, maybe better, but the immune system isn't doing anything to the cancer. Isn't doing anything to it. So you got to see that. And another side is things that are related to antibodies, autoimmune situations that are not diet related, that might be virus related or something of that nature. So you've got antibodies in your system that are destroying parts of your body, but it's not connected with diet. It might be connected with something else. So There are situations where diet won't do anything because it's not the problem. So cancer, can you prevent it? You can really do a good job of trying to prevent a lot of cancers with your diet. Every cancer shows fruit helps to prevent basically every single cancer out there. Eat more fruit, eat more vegetables, reduce your chances. I think you can reduce your chances, but I don't think you can make yourself totally impenetrable to cancer. And if you do get cancer, you should seriously consider taking whatever treatment is out there on offer. Obviously, you want to look into it deeply and find more information, but don't go into doctors and think you know more because you have a better diet than them. Because they've had thousands of people come through with your problem. This is the first time you've ever dealt with it. So, you know, need to try and work together to for health situations. So anyway, thank you for coming along. This information might not be what you want to hear. You might want to live in a world of magic. That this diet will just improve every aspect of your life. And there's a lot of things that it will, but there's some realities that we have to face. And we can't go out there and tell people you're going to cure your cancer with this. Could it happen? Yeah. To me, not likely to happen. Not likely. Could happen, but not a high likelihood. And that's the way I look at it. And when someone has cancer, I'm not. I would certainly, if someone was to come to me for advice, I would be saying, get your affairs in line, like get your life in order, because you have to deal with the reality of the situation. And yes, you'll be healthier, and you might feel a bit better if you eat a raw vegan diet, but the chance of you reversing it, a late stage cancer, is not very high, unfortunately. And you should look at the treatment. And I had a friend a couple of years ago that was diagnosed with cancer. They were around the raw vegan scene, and I was kind of concerned that they might have avoided the treatment, and that's why it progressed. Actually, when the cancer was found, it was already too late for them to do the operation and stuff. It was very rare cancer. It was already too late to do anything. So they were trying their best with um, raw foods and good diet and stuff like that, and unfortunately, it didn't work. Um, it maybe extended the life a little bit. I don't know. So anyway, thank you very much. Feel free to subscribe, share the video if you like with anyone that might like this message, and as ever, feel free to comment below. Thank you, everyone.